My granddaughter said it like I wasn't even there. She's too old to be here. A joke, maybe. A whisper loud enough for everyone to hear. They laughed. My son looked at his lap. No one said a word in my defense, so I smiled, stood up, and left my plate untouched. No goodbye, no scene. Just the quiet shuffle of my shoes down the hallway. I spent that night alone, tea cooling beside me, the wedding invitation still pinned to the fridge. No one called, no one checked. But then I made a final move that made them call me in tears all month. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. Before the laughter, the humiliation, the phone call that changed everything. My life was small, quiet, and full of purpose. My name is Evelyn Brooks, and I raised my granddaughter Harper after my daughter Amanda died in a car accident 16 years ago. One moment, Amanda was calling to tell me about Harper's school play, and the next, I was sitting in a hospital corridor while a 6-year-old child clung to my sweater, asking when her mommy would wake up. She never did. I was 63 then, newly retired from 35 years of teaching English at Oakmont High. I had plans, travel, a garden, perhaps finally writing that novel. Instead, I became a mother again at an age when most women are enjoying grandchildren on weekends and holidays. I never resented it. Harper was all I had left of Amanda. The same thoughtful eyes, the same delicate hands. I sold my house and bought one closer to her elementary school. I learned to navigate parent-teacher conferences where other parents mistook me for her great-grandmother. I stayed up late helping with science projects and woke early to pack lunches with notes tucked inside. Money was tight on a teacher's pension. I took in alterations, tutored after school, sold handmade quilts at the farmer's market. Every extra dollar went into a special account. Harper's future, I called it. College, perhaps. Or a down payment on a house. When she announced her engagement to Eli Grant last Christmas, her eyes shining with happiness, the purpose of that account crystallized. I want to give you the wedding of your dreams, I told her, revealing the balance I'd accumulated over 16 years of careful saving. $60,000. Grandma, that's too much, she protested, but I could see the wheels turning behind her eyes. Your mother would have wanted this, I said, and that settled it. The check I just wrote to Riverdale Gardens cleared this morning, the final venue deposit, $20,000 for a space filled with trailing vines and weathered wood beams. It's the most coveted wedding spot in 3 counties, Nora Franklin, the wedding planner, had gushed. You're so lucky to have secured it. Luck had nothing to do with it, just years of sacrifice bundled into a cashier's check. We should probably discuss the guest list, Nora said yesterday, her manicured fingers flipping through a portfolio. The space works best with a certain aesthetic, clean lines, curated groupings. I nodded, not entirely sure what she meant, but trusting Harper's choice of planner. My granddaughter sat beside me, but somehow seemed miles away, absorbed in Nora's vision. We've already trimmed quite a few names, Harper said, not meeting my eyes. Mostly Mom's old teacher friends. A small pain flickered in my chest. Those old teacher friends had brought casseroles for months after Amanda died, had taken Harper for weekends when grief overtook me, had formed the community that helped us survive. I'm sure it will be lovely, I said instead of objecting. What mattered was Harper's happiness. That's what I'd worked for all these years. The florist needs the final payment by Friday, Harper mentioned as we left the venue. And the caterer wants to confirm the menu tasting next week. I'll take care of it, I promised, as I always did. My friend Lydia warned me last week when we met for coffee. You're becoming invisible, Evelyn. That girl is taking you for granted. She's just excited, I defended Harper. It's her special day. Lydia pursed her lips, unconvinced. Special doesn't mean selfish. I brushed her concern aside, but her words lingered like a pebble in my shoe, a small irritation I couldn't quite shake. This morning, as I finalized the florist payment, $10,000 for arrangements featuring peonies that would bloom for only hours, I noticed the list of bridesmaids on Harper's planning sheet. 6 names, all friends from college or work. No mention of a special role for me. It shouldn't matter. The joy should be in giving, in seeing Harper happy. Yet I found myself touching the single photo of Amanda I keep on my desk, wondering what my daughter would think of the woman her child has become. You'll need to sign here, Mrs. Brooks, the florist said, sliding a contract across her desk. I signed, as I always did, the quiet foundation upon which Harper's dreams were built. Tomorrow is the bridal luncheon at Westfield's, that new French-inspired bistro downtown. Another check to write, another smile to maintain, another moment to remind myself that love is enough. The question lingered as I selected my outfit for the bridal luncheon. I chose a pale blue dress with a modest neckline and pearl earrings that had belonged to Amanda. Simple, elegant, appropriate for the grandmother of the bride. The mirror reflected a woman still straight-backed at 72, silver hair neatly styled, lines etched around eyes that had seen both joy and heartbreak. Westfield's gleamed with cold sophistication when I arrived, all white marble and crystal chandeliers. Harper had chosen a private room in the back, where 20 women sipped champagne amid arrangements of white roses and eucalyptus. "Grandma!" Harper kissed my cheek, the gesture performed for onlookers. "You found the place?" "Your directions were perfect," I replied, though she hadn't sent any. I'd looked up the address myself. "We've arranged seating," she said, leading me not to the long table where her friends clustered, but to a smaller table near the door. "You'll be comfortable here with Mom's godmother and Eli's Aunt Susan, away from the bridal party, away from Harper." "Lovely," I said, swallowing my disappointment. As servers circulated with delicate canapes, I watched Harper at the center table, radiant in her element. Her blonde hair caught the light, her laugh punctuated conversations, her hands gestured animatedly as she spoke. She was beautiful, my granddaughter, and in that moment, a stranger to me. "The wedding planning is going smoothly?" asked Eli's aunt, a kind-faced woman in her 60s. "Very smoothly," I nodded. "Harper has everything well in hand." "Such a blessing you can help them," she remarked. "Weddings are so expensive these days." Before I could respond, Nora Franklin clinked her glass, commanding attention. "Ladies, a toast to our spectacular bride." She raised her flute. "Harper, you've curated the most exquisite celebration. Every detail perfectly reflects your vision." Curated. Vision. The language of appearances, not emotion. "You've really streamlined things beautifully," Nora continued, her eyes flicking briefly toward my table. "The final guest list is so cohesive," Harper beamed. "It's important that everything feels consistent, you know? From the people to the palette. People as part of a palette." The idea sat uncomfortably in my chest. After the luncheon plates were cleared, Harper's maid of honor announced a slideshow. "Harper through the years," she gushed. The lights dimmed, and images flickered across a portable screen. Harper as a teenager, at college, with friends at parties. Not a single photo from before age 12. Not a single photo with me. 16 years of life together, erased. It was as if Harper's life had begun after she'd outgrown her need for a grandmother. When the presentation ended to applause and misty eyes, I excused myself to use the restroom. In the hallway, I paused to collect myself, taking deep breaths to quell the ache spreading through my chest. Voices drifted from around the corner. "Can't believe you put her at the side table," someone said. What was I supposed to do? Harper's voice. "Put her with the bridesmaids. She sticks out enough as it is. Still, she's your grandmother. She raised you." A dismissive laugh. "She's too old to be here. I don't want her ruining the aesthetic. Did you see that dress? It's like something from a thrift store." The dress I'd worn to Amanda's college graduation, carefully preserved, treasured. "My mother would have wanted her involved," Harper continued, voice lowered conspiratorially. "But honestly, it's my wedding, my vision. I'm just humoring her until the check's clear." The words landed like physical blows. Humoring me. Until the check's clear. 16 years of love distilled to transaction. The room tilted slightly. I steadied myself against the wall, breath shallow, heart hammering. In that moment, I saw with painful clarity what I had been refusing to acknowledge. Harper viewed me not as family, but as a resource to be used, and then discarded. I straightened my shoulders and stepped back into the dining room, moving quietly to my table. I gathered my purse, nodded politely to my table mates, and slipped out without fanfare. No one called after me. No one noticed my departure. Outside, the spring air felt sharp in my lungs. I didn't cry. Tears would come later, in private, as they always had. "Can I help you with a taxi, ma'am?" the restaurant host asked. "Yes," I said, voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. "Thank you." In the back seat of the taxi, I removed Amanda's pearl earrings and closed them in my palm. What would my daughter think of this moment? Of her daughter's casual cruelty? Of my quiet exit? "Where to?" the driver asked. I gave him my address, then removed my phone from my purse. There was only one call to make. "Lydia? It's Evelyn." My voice finally wavered. "I need your help." "What happened?" Concern sharpened her tone. "I just left the bridal luncheon." "Already?" "It's barely 2:00. I heard Harper talking about me." The taxi turned onto Main Street, passing the bank where Harper's wedding fund was housed. She said I was too old to be there, that she was just humoring me until the checks cleared. Lydia's sharp intake of breath carried through the phone. "Oh, Evelyn. I've been a fool." The admission hurt less than I expected. Blinded by love, by the ghost of Amanda. "What will you do?" The question hung between us as the taxi approached my neighborhood of modest homes and carefully tended gardens. My house, the one I'd bought to be near Harper's school, came into view. The house where I'd bandaged scraped knees, proofread essays, dried tears after first heartbreaks. The house where, in my home office, a folder contained all the wedding vendor contacts and payment schedules. "I'm going to make a few calls," I said finally, "starting with the bank. Evelyn." Lydia's voice held a note of warning, but also something else, understanding. "Come over when you're done. I'll open the good wine." The taxi stopped in my driveway. I paid the driver and walked steadily to my front door, the weight of decision lending purpose to my steps. Inside, I went directly to my office and opened the wedding folder. Every vendor listed, every contract signed, every payment scheduled. 16 years of sacrifice condensed into numbers on paper. My hands no longer trembled as I reached for the phone. First, I called Victor Ramirez at First National Bank, where I'd kept the wedding fund for 16 years. Victor had been my financial advisor since before Amanda died. He understood the story behind every dollar in that account. "Evelyn," he greeted me warmly. "How are the wedding preparations coming along?" "There's been a change of plans," I said, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. "I need to freeze the wedding account immediately. No more outgoing payments." A pause. "Are you certain about this?" "Completely." I opened my laptop where I kept meticulous records of every payment already made. And I need to know which vendors still have pending charges. Victor didn't ask why. He simply said, "Give me a moment." And I heard his keyboard clicking. "The venue has received their final payment. The florist has an outstanding balance of $4,000. The caterer is scheduled for a payment of $12,500 next week. The photographer has received a deposit, but is due another $3,000. I wrote each name down. "Thank you, Victor. Please cancel all pending automatic payments and place a hold on the account. Consider it done. The remaining balance, approximately $23,000, will stay in the account until you decide what to do with it." After hanging up, I moved methodically through the vendor list. To each, I gave the same calm explanation. "I'm Evelyn Brooks, grandmother of Harper Langford. I need to cancel all services for the wedding scheduled for June 12th. Some expressed surprise. Others asked if I wished to reschedule. One, the florist, actually sighed with what sounded like relief. "Between us," she confided, "your granddaughter has changed the arrangements 4 times. The peonies were becoming impossible." I felt oddly detached, as if observing myself from a distance. This wasn't anger driving my actions. It was clarity, sharp and necessary as a surgeon's knife. The caterer, the photographer, the string quartet, the calligrapher. One by one, I released them from their obligations. With each call, 16 years of sacrifice were reclaimed. Last was Nora Franklin. "Miss Franklin, this is Evelyn Brooks." "Mrs. Brooks?" Surprise colored her voice. "What can I do for you? I'm actually just wrapping up the luncheon." So they hadn't even noticed my absence yet. "I'm calling to inform you that the wedding has been cancelled. All vendor contracts have been terminated. The venue booking has been released." Silence then. "I'm sorry, but Harper hasn't mentioned any changes to me. Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding." "No misunderstanding. The funding for this wedding came from me. It has been withdrawn." A sharp intake of breath. "Mrs. Brooks, I don't think you understand. Deposits have been made. Contracts signed. There are significant penalties for cancellation at this stage." "I understand perfectly," I replied, remembering Harper's words. "She's too old to be here. I don't want her ruining the aesthetic." "The penalties have been paid. The contract's dissolved. Your services are no longer required." After hanging up, I sat motionless at my desk. The folder containing 18 months of wedding planning lay open before me. Now, irrelevant. I closed it and placed it in my bottom drawer. My phone began to ring. Nora, then Harper, then Eli. I silenced it and walked to my front door, where I knew Lydia would soon arrive. Outside, spring sunshine illuminated my modest garden. The irises I'd planted when Harper entered high school were blooming, deep purple standards rising toward the light. They had been Amanda's favorites. Grief washed over me then, not just for today's pain, but for all the losses threaded through my life. My daughter, my dreams, and now, the illusion that I still mattered to the child I had raised. The tears came quietly, dignified even in sorrow. Lydia's car pulled into my driveway. She hurried up the walk, face creased with concern, and wrapped her arms around me without a word. "It's done," I told her. "All of it." "Good," she said fiercely. "It needed to be done." My phone vibrated in my pocket. Harper again. In the distance, I heard another phone ringing inside Lydia's purse. "That will be Eli," she said grimly. "Harper's been calling everyone trying to find you." "Let them look," I said, stepping back inside my house. For once, let them be the ones searching. I closed the door on the ringing phones, the sunny afternoon, and the life I had built around Harper's needs. It was time to find what remained of myself in the quiet aftermath. Lydia and I sat in my kitchen while the phones continued their desperate symphony. Hers eventually went silent, but mine vibrated with increasing urgency. Text messages, voicemails, even an email notification from Eli. "They're panicking," Lydia observed, pouring tea instead of the wine she'd promised. We both knew clarity, not comfort, was needed now. "Let them," I said, surprising myself with the edge in my voice. It might be educational. "Harper left me 3 voicemails," Lydia said, checking her phone. "Eli texted that there's been a terrible mistake and asked if you're with me." "What did you tell him?" "Nothing yet." She stirred honey into her tea. "What do you want me to say?" I considered this as I watched steam rise from my cup. "Tell him I'm safe, nothing more." My landline began to ring, the number only family and old friends possessed. I let it go to the answering machine. "Grandma?" Harper's voice filled the kitchen, tight with panic. "Please pick up. The venue called. They said the wedding is cancelled. Nora says all the vendors have been notified. Please, this isn't funny. Call me back immediately." The machine clicked off. Seconds later, it rang again. "Evelyn, this is Eli. Please call us back. Harper is extremely upset. Whatever the problem is, we can fix it. Just talk to us." Fix it. As if my pain were a leaky faucet requiring a simple turn of a wrench, the third call came moments later. Harper again, now angry. "I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but this is my wedding. You can't just cancel everything because your feelings got hurt. Call me back." Lydia's eyebrows rose. Her true colors are showing. "They've been showing for years," I replied. "I just refused to see them." We sat in silence as the calls continued, each message more desperate than the last. Outside, the afternoon light began to soften toward evening. My garden cast long shadows across the lawn, where Harper had once played with neighborhood children. "They're here," Lydia said suddenly, looking out the window. A car had pulled into my driveway. Eli's sensible sedan rather than Harper's luxury crossover. He emerged alone, his face drawn with concern. "Do you want me to send him away?" I shook my head. "Number. I think I'll hear what he has to say." When the doorbell rang, I took my time answering. Eli stood on my porch, hands shoved into his pockets, looking younger than his 30 years. "Mrs. Brooks?" he began, formality replacing his usual casual, "Evelyn. Can we talk?" I gestured him inside but remained standing in the entryway. "Where's Harper?" "At home. She's..." He hesitated. "She's not handling this well?" "I imagine not. The vendors all say you canceled everything. The venue, the flowers, the catering. They won't even discuss rebooking without your authorization." His confusion seemed genuine. "I don't understand. Did something happen at the luncheon?" The question hung between us, his innocence a thin shield I could pierce with truth. "Yes," I said simply. "Something happened." I watched understanding dawn in his eyes. "What did she do?" "She revealed who she truly is, and who I am to her." He swallowed, looking away. "The side table, among other things." I told her it wasn't right. His voice was quiet. That you deserved better treatment, yet you said nothing when it mattered. The observation wasn't cruel, merely factual. Eli sank onto my sofa, head in his hands. I didn't know about the money, Mrs. Brooks. I swear. Harper told me the wedding fund came from her father's inheritance. The lie startled me. Harper's father had abandoned Amanda before Harper was born. There had never been any inheritance. There was no inheritance, Eli. Every dollar came from me. 16 years of extra work, careful saving. Oh, God. Understanding transformed his face. All those extra shifts at your tailoring business, the tutoring. Harper said you did those things because you enjoyed them. I did them to build her future. I remained standing, a teacher waiting for a student to reach the correct conclusion. And she... He stopped, piecing it together. At the luncheon, what did she say about you? That I was too old to be there, that I would ruin her aesthetic. The words still stung, but less sharply now. That she was humoring me until the checks cleared. Eli closed his eyes, pain and shame crossing his features. I'm so sorry. I'm not looking for apologies, Eli, especially not from you. What are you looking for? The question was genuine, his gaze direct. For the first time, I saw in him what might have drawn Harper to this kind, thoughtful man, so different from her calculating self. Recognition, I said finally. Respect. The acknowledgement that I exist beyond my checkbook. He nodded slowly, then rose to leave. At the door, he turned back. What happens now? That, I said, is entirely up to Harper. After Eli left, Lydia stayed until nightfall, her presence a shield against the continuing calls. When she finally departed with a fierce hug and promises to return tomorrow, I moved through my evening routine with mechanical precision. Dishes washed, doors locked, lights dimmed. In my bedroom, I removed Amanda's pearl earrings and placed them in their velvet box. I tried. I whispered to the daughter who existed now only in memory. I tried to love her enough for both of us. Sleep eluded me. Around midnight, the doorbell rang. A prolonged, insistent press. Then again, and again. I knew who it was. Through the peephole, I saw Harper on my porch. Her makeup was smeared, her hair disheveled. Gone was the polished bride-to-be. In her place stood a woman undone by consequences. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. It's late, Harper. How could you? She pushed past me into the hallway. How could you destroy everything? Do you have any idea what you've done? Her voice echoed in the quiet house, the house where I'd read her bedtime stories, bandaged scraped knees, celebrated report cards. I've stopped paying for my own erasure, I replied, closing the door. That's all. My wedding is in 8 weeks. The venue is gone. The florist won't return my calls. Nora says there's nothing she can do. Her voice rose with each sentence. My friends keep texting, asking what happened. Do you know how humiliating this is? The irony of her complaint didn't escape me. Yes, Harper. I know exactly how humiliating it is. She paced my living room, agitation in every step. This is insane. You can't just cancel someone else's wedding because your feelings got hurt. It wasn't your wedding, Harper. It was mine. The calm in my voice surprised us both. Every dollar funding it came from me. Every vendor was contracted by me. Every payment was made from my account. But it was my day. Tears of frustration filled her eyes. You promised me that money. You can't take it back because of one stupid comment. It wasn't one comment. It was years of comments, years of exclusion. Years of being tolerated rather than loved. I gestured toward the dining room table. "Sit down, Harper." Surprisingly, she complied, perhaps sensing the immovability in my tone. I opened the hallway closet and retrieved a worn cardboard box I'd prepared during the sleepless hours after the luncheon. Setting it on the table, I switched on the overhead light. "This is what funded your wedding." I removed faded receipts, pay stubs, bank statements. Every extra shift at the tailoring shop, every weekend spent tutoring instead of resting, every handmade quilt sold at the farmer's market. Harper stared at the papers, her anger momentarily displaced by confusion. 16 years of work beyond my teaching pension, I continued. Not because I needed to, but because I wanted to secure your future. Because I thought that's what Amanda would have wanted. Mom would have wanted me to have my wedding, she countered, but her voice had lost its certainty. Your mother would have wanted you to be kind, I corrected gently. To be grateful, to recognize the sacrifices made for you. I am grateful, she insisted. I've always been grateful. Have you? I removed a final item from the box, a small album. Inside were photos of Harper through the years I'd raised her, award ceremonies where I stood in the background, dance recitals where I sat alone, college move-in day where I carried boxes while she walked ahead with friends. Do you know what I heard you say today? I kept my voice even. You said I was too old to be there, that I would ruin your aesthetic, that you were humoring me until the checks cleared. She flinched, color draining from her face. You weren't supposed to hear that. That's your defense? Not that you didn't say it, but that I wasn't supposed to hear it. It was just wedding stress talking. I didn't mean it. You meant every word, Harper, and that's why the money is gone. I closed the album. Not as punishment, but as self-preservation. I won't fund my own diminishment any longer. She stared at the scattered evidence of my years of sacrifice, tears now falling freely. What am I supposed to do now? The wedding is ruined. Perhaps that's not a bad thing. Perhaps you and Eli need to build something authentic, not something designed for Instagram approval. You don't understand. Everyone is expecting... I understand perfectly. I gathered the papers back into the box. You care more about appearances than substance, more about what strangers think than how family feels. A heavy silence fell between us. Harper's shoulders slumped, the fight draining from her posture. Can't we fix this? Her voice was small, almost childlike. Can't you just put it all back the way it was? No, Harper, we can't go back. I sat across from her, meeting her eyes directly. But we could start over, with honesty this time, with mutual respect. What does that even mean? It means recognizing who I am beyond my checkbook. It means including me because you want me there, not because social convention requires it. I paused. It means seeing me, Harper. Really seeing me. She wiped her eyes, makeup smearing further. And if I do all that, will you fund the wedding again? The transactional nature of her question confirmed everything. Number, that money is gone. Whatever celebration you and Eli choose now will need to reflect your actual resources, not my decades of saving. So this was all just revenge. This was a lesson. I stood, suddenly tired beyond words. One I hope you'll understand someday. Harper rose shakily, gathering her purse. At the door, she turned back. I don't know how to move forward from this. With humility, I suggested, and perhaps with the same resilience I tried to teach you all these years. After she left, I sat alone in my quiet house, the box of memories beside me. For the first time since the luncheon, I felt peace settle over me like a familiar quilt. Not happiness, not yet, but the steady calm of truth finally spoken. The week that followed was strangely silent. No more frantic calls from Harper, no updates from Eli. The only contact was a brief text from Nora Franklin. "Mrs. Brooks, I apologize for my role in making you feel unwelcome. I should have known better." I didn't reply. Professional courtesy, not genuine remorse, had prompted her message. A wedding planner protecting future business prospects. Lydia kept me company most afternoons, her practical nature providing ballast as I navigated unfamiliar emotional waters. "What will you do with the money?" she asked over tea 5 days after Harper's midnight visit. I had been considering this very question. The $23,000 remaining in the account represented years of quiet sacrifice. Its purpose, Harper's wedding, no longer existed. "I've decided to donate it," I said, "to the arts program at Westlake Elementary." "Amanda's school?" Lydia nodded, understanding immediately. "Yes, they've been struggling since budget cuts last year. This will fund their program for several years." I stirred honey into my tea. Amanda loved that school. She would have approved. And Harper? Harper never asked where the money came from. She's hardly in a position to question where it goes. On the 10th day after the luncheon, I drove to Westlake Elementary with a cashier's check and signed the paperwork establishing the Amanda Brooks Memorial Arts Fund. The principal, a former colleague, embraced me with tears in her eyes. "Amanda would be so proud," she said. "This will touch hundreds of children's lives." Driving home, I felt lighter than I had in years, as if I had finally fulfilled a promise made long ago to my daughter. Not to fund a lavish wedding for her child, but to honor her memory in a way that reflected her values. When I arrived home, there was an envelope in my mailbox with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with Eli's neat handwriting. "Mrs. Brooks, Harper doesn't know I'm writing this. We've decided to postpone the wedding indefinitely. What happened with you forced us to have some difficult conversations about our relationship, our values, and our future. I want you to know I returned to the restaurant after that luncheon. I asked the staff about what happened. They told me you left alone. No one noticed for almost an hour. No one called you a ride. No one checked if you were okay. I'm ashamed of my part in all this. I should have spoken up sooner when I saw how you were being treated. I told myself it wasn't my place, that it was wedding stress, making Harper act this way. But the truth is, I was afraid of conflict, afraid of being the one voice of dissent. We're seeing a couples counselor now. Harper is struggling to understand the consequences of her actions. She's angry, hurt, and confused. But she's talking. Really talking. Maybe for the first time. I don't know what happens next between you and Harper. That's for you both to decide. But I wanted you to know that your actions, while painful for everyone, were necessary. They forced us to confront truths we'd been avoiding. With respect and gratitude, Eli, I read the letter twice, then placed it carefully in my desk drawer. Not a resolution, but perhaps a beginning. 2 more weeks passed. Spring deepened into early summer. I resumed routines set aside during wedding planning. Morning walks, volunteer work at the library, evenings with my small circle of friends. The wedding date approached and receded without mention. Then, on a warm Saturday morning, a knock at my door. Harper stood on my porch, alone. Not disheveled as she'd been during her midnight visit, but subdued. She wore simple jeans and a t-shirt, her hair pulled back without artifice. "Can I come in?" she asked. "Just to talk." I gestured her inside. We sat in the living room, the space between us filled with unspoken words. "I went to Westlake yesterday," she began. "They're putting up a plaque for Mom's Arts Fund. The principal told me what you did with the money." I nodded, waiting. "It was the right thing to do," she said, surprising me. "Mom would have loved that." Silence stretched between us, not hostile, but hesitant. "Eli and I got married last weekend," she continued, her voice soft. "At the courthouse. Just us and 2 witnesses from the office." "I see." The news stung despite everything, a final confirmation of my exclusion. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. "We took one picture. I thought you might want it." The photo showed Harper and Eli on the courthouse steps. No elaborate gown, no curated backdrop, no professional lighting, just 2 young people holding hands, faces turned toward each other with quiet certainty. "You look happy," I said, and meant it. "We are." She twisted her hands in her lap. "It wasn't what I planned, not even close, but it felt real." She looked up, meeting my eyes directly. "I've been seeing someone, a therapist, trying to understand why I treated you the way I did. And have you found answers?" "Some." She took a deep breath. "I think I resented how much I needed you after Mom died, how much I depended on you. And as I got older, I tried to prove I didn't need you anymore, by pushing you away." The insight surprised me, clearer and more honest than I had expected. "And the wedding?" I asked gently. Was me trying to create this perfect image that would somehow fill the emptiness I've felt since Mom died? Her voice wavered. "But it was all surface, all show." "You were right about that." I reached across and took her hand, the first physical contact we'd shared in weeks. "I'm sorry you've been carrying that emptiness all these years. I'm sorry I made you pay for it." She squeezed my hand, then released it. "In every sense of the word." We sat together as morning light filtered through the curtains, illuminating dust motes that danced between us. Not quite peace, not yet forgiveness, but something tentative and new. "Eli's parents have invited us for dinner next weekend," Harper said eventually. "They asked if you would come too." "Why?" "Because they want to meet you." She managed a small smile. "And because I told them I'd like to try again, to build something real this time." After she left, I placed the courthouse photo on my mantle, next to one of Amanda, mother and daughter, eternally young, frozen in separate moments of hope. Between them, I set a small frame that had been empty for years. Perhaps someday it would hold a new photo, one that included all of us, connected by truth rather than obligation. I didn't know if Harper and I could rebuild what had been broken. Wounds heal, but they leave scars. Trust, once shattered, never quite reforms in the same pattern. But as I looked at the photographs, I felt something unfurling in my chest. Not forgiveness, exactly, but possibility. My granddaughter said it like I wasn't even there. "She's too old to be here." A whisper that changed everything. But perhaps in the end, it changed things for the better. Perhaps it forced us both to see what had been hidden beneath years of silence and sacrifice. The worth of a person cannot be measured in dollars spent or appearances maintained. It lies in truth spoken, boundaries respected, and love offered without expectation of return. I turned from the photographs and picked up the phone. "Lydia? It's Evelyn. I think I'll accept that dinner invitation after all. Whatever came next would be built on honesty. It would be smaller than the grand wedding once planned, less perfect than the images Harper had curated, more fragile than the certainties we once clung to. But it would be real. And after all these years, that was enough.